The blackout came just after sunset. At first, Ada thought it was temporary, the kind that flickered and returned within seconds, as if the city itself was apologizing. She lay on the narrow hospital bed, sweat slick on her neck, one hand gripping the thin mattress, the other pressed against her swollen belly. Outside, generators rumbled in protest, their uneven growls rising and falling like tired animals. Then one by one, the generators failed. The lights went out completely. A nurse cursed softly. Another switched on her phone torch, the beam cutting through the sudden darkness like a blade. The room shrank. Shadows leapt onto the walls, stretching and bending into unfamiliar shapes. Ada inhaled sharply as another wave of pain rolled through her body. "Breathe," the nurse said. "Slowly." Ada tried. The air felt thick, heavy, as if fear had weight. She had imagined this moment so many times: bright lights, clean sheets, doctors moving with practiced confidence. Not this half-dark room where every sound seemed amplified. The drip of sweat onto the floor, the rustle of fabric, the distant cry of another woman in labor. The pain tightened again, sharper this time. Ada cried out despite herself. "You're doing well," the nurse said, though her voice wavered slightly. "Just a little more." Ada closed her eyes. She thought of the estate where she lived, new duplexes with shiny gates standing beside older cement houses whose paint had peeled under years of sun and rain. She thought of the mango tree in her compound, of how she had leaned against it weeks earlier, laughing as she told her neighbor she was tired of being pregnant. Now she would give anything to still be waiting. The room smelled of antiseptic and sweat. Someone placed a damp cloth on her forehead. The phone torches shifted, their light trembling as hands moved. Then, suddenly, there was pressure, different from pain, heavier, final. "Push," the nurse said. Ada pushed. Time fractured. She could not tell if seconds or minutes passed. Her body felt no longer like her own, as if it had become a narrow passage she was being pulled through from both ends. And then it was over. A small, slippery weight left her body. Ada waited. In every story she had ever heard, the baby cried immediately. Loud, angry, alive. But the room remained quiet. Too quiet. The nurses exchanged a glance. One of them lifted the baby, rubbing its back firmly. Ada's heart hammered in her chest. "Why isn't my baby crying?" she asked, her voice thin and cracking. "It's normal," the nurse said quickly. Too quickly. Sometimes babies take a moment. A moment stretched. Ada felt panic rise, hot and choking. She tried to sit up, but was gently pushed back down. "Please," she whispered. "Please." Then the baby cried. It was not loud, not weak either. Just ordinary. A simple sound, as if the baby was stating a fact rather than protesting existence. Relief flooded Ada so fast she began to sob. "There," the nurse said, forcing a smile. "You see? Nothing to worry about." They placed the baby on Ada's chest. Warm, damp, real. Ada touched the tiny fingers, counted them. 5. Perfect. The baby's eyes fluttered open briefly, dark and unfocused, then closed again. "You're here," Ada whispered. "You're here." She did not know why a strange thought crossed her mind then, uninvited and unwelcome. "Why didn't you cry immediately?" She pushed it away. By morning, power had returned. The hospital buzzed with renewed energy, lights humming, fans spinning, televisions crackling back to life. The night felt like something unreal, something that had happened in another world. Ada lay awake, exhausted but alert, watching her baby sleep. Visitors came and went. Her mother arrived first, eyes bright with tears. An aunt followed, then cousins. They praised Ada, praised God, praised the baby's calmness. "She's too quiet," the aunt said lightly, peering into the bassinet. Ada stiffened. "Babies sleep," she replied. "Yes, yes," the woman said quickly. "I'm just saying." The words lingered in the air even after the aunt moved on. Later, when the room was quieter, Ada noticed something else. The baby's eyes opened suddenly and fixed on a corner of the ceiling. Ada followed the gaze. There was nothing there, just a faint crack in the plaster. "She's just seeing light," Ada murmured to herself. Still, she reached out and touched the baby's cheek, as if to anchor her to the present. They returned home 3 days later. The estate looked the same, yet different, too bright, too loud. Neighbors leaned over balconies, offering congratulations. Someone ululated. Someone else muttered a prayer. Ada smiled until her cheeks hurt. Inside her house, everything felt unfamiliar. The baby's cot stood where the reading chair used to be. Tiny clothes filled the wardrobe, their colors cheerful, almost mocking. That first night, Ada barely slept. Every sound startled her awake. The baby's breathing, the creak of the ceiling, the distant bark of a dog. At one point, she thought she saw movement near the door. Her heart raced. Then she realized it was only the curtain shifting in the breeze. "You're tired," she told herself. "That's all." The baby stirred and opened her eyes. For a brief moment, Ada felt an irrational fear, as if she were being examined, not by a child, but by something older. The feeling vanished as quickly as it came. She laughed softly at herself and reached for her phone, searching for articles about newborn behavior, about first-time mothers and anxiety. Everything she read reassured her. Everything except the unease she could not name. On the third night, the baby smiled. Ada froze. It wasn't the reflexive twitch she had read about. It was slow, deliberate, almost knowing. Ada's breath caught. "That's early," she whispered. The baby's eyes were open, watching her. Ada felt foolish for the chill that ran through her body. She shook her head, stood up, and carried the baby to the living room where the television murmured softly. Normal sounds. Normal light. Normal life. But as she sat there, rocking gently, a sentence formed in her mind, unbidden. Some children arrive differently. She did not know where the thought came from. She wished she could erase it. The whispers had not yet begun, but the seed had already been planted. And like all dangerous things, it grew quietly. In silence, in shadows, in the space between belief and fear. The first whisper came wrapped in concern. Ada was bathing the baby when her aunt leaned against the bathroom doorframe, arms folded, eyes narrowed in thought. The baby lay calmly in the small plastic tub, water rippling gently around her tiny body. She did not cry. She did not protest. She simply watched. "So quiet," the aunt said. Ada smiled without looking up. "She likes water." The aunt hummed. "Not agreement, consideration. Children usually cry," she said. "Especially first baths." Ada rinsed soap from the baby's arm, careful and slow. "Not all of them." The aunt shrugged. "I'm only saying." Only saying. That was how it always started. The whispers multiplied the moment Ada stepped outside with the baby. In the estate, women gathered in small groups like birds on power lines, their conversations pausing when Ada approached, then resuming in softer tones after she passed. Smiles were offered, wide, polite, practiced, but eyes lingered too long. "Beautiful child," one neighbor said, bending to look closer. "She hardly cries." Ada nodded. "She's calm." The neighbor laughed lightly. "Too calm, sometimes." Ada's smile tightened. At home that evening, Ada searched again. Medical articles, parenting blogs, forum posts from exhausted mothers. "Some babies are observant," one post read. "Some babies are quiet." Another said, "My daughter smiled at 2 weeks." Ada felt relief bloom in her chest. Yet, when she put her phone down and looked at her baby sleeping beside her, she felt washed by the room itself, as if the walls had begun listening. It was the church elder who gave the whispers a voice. She visited on Sunday afternoon, Bible tucked under her arm, perfume heavy in the small living room. She prayed loudly, her voice rising and falling, punctuated by pauses that demanded agreement. "Amen," she said. "Amen," Ada replied, though her throat felt dry. The elder leaned over the baby, who lay awake on the couch, eyes wide and alert. "She's watching," the woman murmured. Ada stiffened. "She's awake." The elder smiled thinly. "Children see what we don't." Ada laughed, sharp and sudden. "That's superstition." The elder's smile did not fade. "Not everything science refuses is false." The baby smiled then, soft, brief. The elder took a step back. Ada felt something shift in the room. That night, Ada dreamed of doors. Doors opening. Doors closing. Doors she could not reach. She woke sweating, heart racing, the baby's breathing steady beside her. Ada sat up, holding her breath, listening. Nothing. Yet the silence felt crowded. By the fourth day, the whispers were no longer accidental. They were deliberate. Ada's mother called. "People are talking," she said carefully. "People always talk," Ada replied. "Yes," her mother said. "But this time they are talking about you." Ada closed her eyes. "They say the child doesn't behave like other children." "She's a baby," Ada snapped. "Babies don't behave." Her mother sighed. "Just be careful. Pray more." Ada ended the call with shaking hands. Fear does not arrive fully formed. It seeps. It seeps into conversations, into pauses, into looks held a second too long. It dresses itself as concern, as wisdom, as tradition. It borrows the faces of people you trust. Ada still believed she was stronger than it. She was educated. She lived in the city. She knew better. But when she turned off the lights that night, she hesitated before sleeping. And when the baby opened her eyes in the dark, Ada felt, just for a moment, that the shadows were paying attention. The whispers had begun, and they were learning her name. Ada first heard his name before she saw his face. It came up in conversations that were meant to sound casual. "Have you heard of him?" a neighbor asked, lowering her voice. "He's accurate," another said. "He doesn't guess," someone else added. "He reveals." Ada rolled her eyes every time. Men like that existed everywhere. Online prophets with perfect lighting, miracles edited for views, revelations that always arrived too late to be questioned. She had watched documentaries. She knew the tricks. Still, when the knock came on her door one humid afternoon, her stomach tightened. He did not come alone. Two women stood behind him, heads bowed slightly, as if in reverence. The man himself was calm, neatly dressed, his smile gentle and unhurried. He smelled expensive, something clean and unfamiliar in Ada's small living room. "I was passing through the area," he said, voice smooth. "And I felt led." Ada almost laughed. "Led where?" she asked. "To this house." The words landed softly, but they carried weight. Against her better judgment, she stepped aside. He did not sit immediately. He stood in the middle of the room, eyes closed, hands loosely clasped, breathing slowly as if listening to something only he could hear. The baby lay awake in her cot. The man opened his eyes. He did not rush toward the child. He did not touch her. He only looked, longer than necessary. Ada felt heat rise up her neck. "If you're here to scare me, I am here to clarify," he said gently. He turned back to Ada. "You are confused." Ada crossed her arms. "I'm tired." "Yes," he agreed. "And fear grows best in exhaustion." Her breath caught. He nodded, as if confirming something to himself. "This child," he said slowly, carefully, "did not arrive the way others do." Ada felt the room tilt, the floor seeming to slide a fraction to the left. "What does that even mean?" she demanded. He raised a hand, not to silence her, but to steady the air. "Not evil," he said. "Not exactly." "Exactly." She came through the wrong door. The sentence settled into the room like dust. Ada laughed. The sound was sharp, brittle. "Doors don't exist. They exist in realms you refuse to acknowledge," he replied calmly. She wanted to shout, to order him out, to throw his words back at him like broken glass. But the problem with calm authority is that it does not sound like madness. It sounds like certainty. He spoke for a long time. Not in threats. Not in drama. He spoke in patterns, in stories, in references that echoed things Ada had already heard. The quietness, the staring, the early smile. He never introduced a new fear. He only organized the existing ones. "Fear does not create the truth," he said. "It reveals it." Ada's heart pounded. "What are you saying?" she whispered. He looked at the baby again. "I am saying the situation is delicate." After he left, the house felt different. Not darker. Not colder. Just alert. Ada sat alone on the couch long after the door closed, replaying his words, hating herself for remembering them so clearly. She picked up her phone and searched his name. Thousands of videos. Millions of views. Comments filled with gratitude and testimonies. "He saved my family. He exposed what doctors missed. He speaks truth without fear." Ada dropped the phone. She walked to the cot. The baby looked up at her, eyes steady, unblinking. Ada swallowed. "You're just a baby," she said aloud. "You're just a baby." But the words felt thinner than before. That night, the cries changed. Not louder. Not stranger. Just different. Every sound felt like a question Ada did not know how to answer. She did not sleep. And for the first time since the birth, she wondered, not if something was wrong, but what if everyone else was right? When fear meets authority, it does not fight. It bows. The rain began without warning. One moment the air was thick and unmoving. The next it shattered, water pounding the zinc roofs, gutters overflowing, the estate swallowed by a roar that felt louder than thunder. Ada stood by the window and watched the street disappear under silver sheets, headlights blurring into streaks of light. She pressed the baby closer to her chest. Each breath she counted. In, out, in, out. The counting was the only thing holding her together. Earlier that evening, her mother had come again. She did not sit. She did not smile. People are afraid, she said. Ada stared at the wall. People are always afraid. Yes, her mother replied. But now they are afraid for you. The words clung to Ada like damp clothing. They prayed. Long prayers. Heavy prayers. Prayers that left no room for silence, because silence had become suspicious. When the prayers ended, no one said what needed to be said. But Ada felt it hovering in the room, unspeakable and heavy. Now the rain drummed harder. The baby stirred, making a small sound, half cry, half breath. Ada froze. Her heart leapt, then sank, then raced again. Every cry sounds like a warning, she thought. Every silence feels like confirmation. She hated herself for thinking it. She rocked slowly, whispering nonsense sounds, the kind mothers had whispered for generations. The baby's body was warm, familiar, human. Ada pressed her face against the baby's head and inhaled deeply. This was real. This was hers. And yet fear sat beside her, patient and persuasive. Fear reminded her of the whispers. Fear repeated the prophet's calm certainty. Fear wore the faces of people who claimed to love her. Fear asked one question, over and over. What if you are wrong? The knock came just after midnight. Ada did not jump. Somehow, she had been expecting it. She opened the door slowly. They did not force their way in. They did not raise their voices. Everything was done gently, carefully, as if any sudden movement might break something fragile. They spoke in low tones. They spoke of protection, of prevention, of responsibility. Ada listened, numb. The baby slept through it all. When the moment came, when hands reached out, not violently, but firmly, Ada hesitated. Time slowed. She looked down at the tiny face, peaceful and unaware. She searched for something, anything, that would prove the whispers wrong. She found nothing except her own fear. The door closed. No screams filled the night. No chaos followed. Just the rain, and the unbearable quiet that followed it. The house felt wrong immediately. Too large. Too empty. Ada stood in the living room long after everyone left, staring at the closed door as if it might open again by mistake. Her arms ached, muscles tensed as though they still held weight. She sat on the couch, then stood, then sat again. Her body did not know what to do without the baby. She listened for breathing that was no longer there. The rain slowed, then stopped, leaving behind a ringing silence. Ada pressed her palms against her ears. It did nothing. At dawn, the estate woke as it always did. Engines started. Children shouted. Life continued. Ada lay on the bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling crack the baby used to look at. This was necessary, she told herself. This was protection. The words felt borrowed. Used. As the sun rose higher, Ada felt something inside her seal shut. Not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. A door had closed, and she did not yet understand what it would cost her. The silence did not arrive all at once. It crept in slowly, settling into corners, into spaces that had once been occupied by sound. At first, Ada told herself it was peace. Relief. The quiet after chaos. But peace did not make her chest ache like this. She woke up the next morning at exactly the same time she had been waking for feeds. Her eyes opened before her body remembered there was no reason to rise. She lay still, listening. No crying. No soft breathing. No rustle of fabric. The ceiling fan turned lazily above her, its low hum suddenly too loud. Ada sat up. Her arms moved on instinct, reaching toward the empty space beside her. When her hands touched nothing, her breath caught sharply, like she had been struck. She pressed her palms against the mattress and stayed there for a long time. People came later that day. They did not come empty-handed. They brought food, soft words, and expressions carefully arranged to look like respect. They spoke gently, as if Ada might break if addressed too directly. "You are strong," one woman said. "You did what many couldn't," another added. Ada nodded at the right moments. She murmured thanks. She accepted plates she did not touch. Someone said, "God knows why." Someone else said, "Not everyone is chosen for easy paths." Chosen. The word followed her even after they left. That night was worse. Without the baby, darkness filled the house too easily. Ada turned on lights in every room, as if brightness could replace. For a split second, she thought she saw arms wrapped around her chest. Empty arms. Sleep became fragmented. Ada dreamed of holding something she could not see, waking with her hands clenched painfully tight. She dreamed of knocking on doors that never opened, of voices calling her name from behind walls she could not break. During the day, she wandered the house aimlessly. The baby's clothes remained folded, untouched. The cot stood where it always had, accusing in its stillness. Ada sat beside it once, staring until her eyes burned. "I protected you," she whispered to the empty room. The words echoed back hollowly. Outside, life continued. Neighbors waved from a distance. Children played. Laughter drifted over fences. Ada watched from her window, feeling separated from the world by an invisible wall. She was still there, still breathing, still functioning, but something essential had been removed. She began to understand something terrifying. Silence could be louder than screams. And this silence knew her name. Ada collapsed in a supermarket aisle. There was no dramatic build-up, no warning, no dizziness that gave her time to prepare. One moment she was standing between shelves stacked with powdered milk, staring at labels she could not read, and the next the world tilted violently sideways. The floor rose to meet her. When she opened her eyes, fluorescent lights burned overhead. Strange faces hovered above her, their mouths moving faster than her mind could follow. Someone asked her name. Someone else told her not to sleep. Her body felt hollow, as if all the weight that once anchored her had been removed. The hospital room was clean, quiet, modern. Too modern for ghosts. A young doctor entered later that evening, tablet tucked under his arm, his movements brisk but not unkind. He asked questions gently, methodically, about sleep, appetite, headaches, panic. Ada answered mechanically. Then, unexpectedly, he asked about the baby. The room seemed to shrink. Ada stared at the white wall behind him. Her voice came out flat, practiced, as if she had rehearsed the story too many times already. She was not normal, Ada said. They said. The doctor held up a hand, not to interrupt, but to slow her. "Tell me exactly what you noticed," he said. Ada hesitated. No one had ever asked her that. She spoke slowly at first, then faster. The quietness, the staring, the early smile, the silence at birth. She repeated every detail she had memorized as evidence. The doctor listened without reacting. When she finished, he nodded once. "Those are common newborn reflexes," he said. The sentence landed softly. Ada frowned. "What?" "Moro reflex. Rooting. Early social smiling. Visual tracking. All normal." She stared at him, waiting for the rest. For the warning. For the exception. It did not come. "There was nothing wrong with your baby," he continued gently. "Nothing supernatural. Nothing dangerous." Ada laughed weakly. "You weren't there." "No," he agreed. "But I've seen hundreds of newborns. And I've seen what fear does when it's fed." The room felt suddenly airless. "No demons," he said. "No spirits. No wrong doors. Just a child." The truth did not arrive loudly. It did not accuse or shout. It whispered, and it tore through her. Ada felt something rupture inside her chest. Not pain exactly, but recognition. A knowing so sharp it stole her breath. She covered her mouth as a sound escaped her that was not quite a sob. The doctor looked away, giving her privacy she no longer deserved. She thought bitterly. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I know," he said quietly. The words broke her. She was discharged 2 days later. The city looked unchanged. Traffic flowed. People argued on phones. Life moved with cruel efficiency. Ada moved through it like a ghost. At home, the house greeted her with its familiar silence. She sat on the bed and stared at the space where the baby should have been. For the first time since that night, she allowed herself to think the forbidden thought, "I was wrong." The weight of it pressed her into the mattress. The truth had waited patiently. And now it would never leave her. Ada did not return to her old life. She returned to a version of living that looked similar from the outside. Waking, bathing, leaving the house, answering greetings, but felt fundamentally altered, like a familiar song played in the wrong key. People noticed the change. "She's quieter now," someone said. "She's humbled," another replied. "Life has taught her," a third concluded. No one asked what life had taught her. Ada stopped correcting people. Silence had become her language. The first time she entered the maternal health center as a volunteer, her hands trembled. The room was bright and busy. Plastic chairs lined against the wall, women fanning themselves, babies crying with the honest urgency only babies possessed. The sound hit her chest like a wave. She almost turned back. But then she saw a young woman in the corner, clutching her baby too tightly, eyes darting around the room as if danger hid in every face. Ada recognized that look. She sat beside her. "You're doing well," Ada said softly. The woman blinked in surprise. "You think so?" "Yes," Ada replied. "Fear lies." The woman laughed nervously. "My aunt says my baby doesn't cry enough." Ada inhaled slowly. "Some babies don't." The woman relaxed, just a little. That was when Ada understood why she was there. She did not preach. She did not argue with elders or confront prophets. She knew how deeply people clung to certainty, especially when it wore the mask of faith. Instead, she asked questions. "What exactly did you see? Who told you it was dangerous? Did anyone explain another possibility?" Sometimes the answers crumbled under their own weight. Sometimes they didn't. Ada learned to accept both outcomes. At night, she still dreamed. She dreamed of holding a child whose face remained just out of view. She dreamed of doors left open, of rooms filled with light. She dreamed of a version of herself who had asked one more question, just one, and waited for proof. She woke with tears on her face and no one to wipe them away. Grief, she learned, did not fade. It matured. One afternoon, as she rocked a crying baby while his exhausted mother rested, Ada felt something unexpected. Peace. Not forgiveness. Not absolution. But purpose. The baby's cries softened. His small body relaxed against her chest. Ada closed her eyes, breathing in the ordinary miracle of it. Warmth, weight, life. In that moment, she allowed herself to imagine another ending. One where fear was questioned. One where belief waited for evidence. One where a baby was allowed to grow. She did not live in that ending, but she protected it for others. Ada never told her full story. She didn't need to. Every time she spoke gently against panic, every time she offered science instead of superstition, every time she reminded a mother that love should not require fear, she honored what she had lost. Some evils are not spirits. Some evils are ideas, passed down, repeated, and never challenged. Ada lived now to challenge them. That was what remained. Yindi.